exceptional in that, doing his best, even when it was clear that the opponent was going to be able to take it to the house. He was still giving his best effort trying to run him down. So Thomas Morstead was really the most valuable player for the Saints in this particular game. But the breakdowns in the kicking game and the fundamental breakdowns on the field goal team with Andrus Peat and with Terran Armstead were mistakes that we wouldn't allow. Coach J.T. Curtis was with it. I made the comment that we wouldn't have allowed fundamental technique errors like they had going from their very first step. We wouldn't have allowed that at St. James or at Curtis.
Coach, let me ask you this, because it was pretty obvious to me that looked like both of those guys most of the game. Now, it's not just on that kick, but both of those guys may not be in sync with one another, but it also looks like they played too high. Is that correct, or am I off?
Oh, there's no question about that. That whenever that's the hardest thing for offensive linemen, especially at the professional level, when they're the size that these people are. There's no question that the height, that their shoulder pads, allowing the opposition to get under their shoulder pads, is certainly a big part of that. That's a basic fundamental, but something that needs attention consistently and constantly as well. So there's no doubt that part of their difficulty has to do with the height that they are in. Their pad level is way too high most of the time. Okay.
All right, and what kind of disturbed me, guys, and I wanted to get your take, Remy and BB, is the fact that I noticed Andrus Peat and Armstead were reaching a lot, and on the rushing plays, it wasn't the passing plays they were having trouble with, because I think they protected Breeze pretty adequately most of the game. But on the rushing plays, they weren't able to get a push up the field. Did you guys notice that?
Of course. It's how things have been. But as you said, the pass protection was better. Well, it was there. And that's something that was an improvement in my eyes, that at least the pass protection was there. But no, you're absolutely right. I didn't see much domination from the offensive line, and that push was not there. And quite often, it seems as soon as our running backs got the ball, they were looking right into someone's face.
Right.
On many plays, it was. I would agree with you totally. It was that was very, very frustrating.
What about you, BB?
I agree. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the Saints had 13 carries for 41 yards in the game, and I spoke on it on Friday with the professor. I said, whichever team can get the running backs more involved is probably going to win this game, because in my head I thought it was going to be a little bit similar to the game we saw in New Orleans, where it was going to be a pass-happy game, which it was. Manning and Breeze both threw over 40 passes. But the Giants had touched the ball on the ground 32 times, opposed to the Saints 13. I understand why the Saints abandoned the run. It happens quite a bit in New Orleans, as we all know. They abandon the run early because it doesn't work. And you can bring in different running backs and see different guys, and I'm not sure if it's really an Ingram thing at this point or if it's an offensive line issue. Though, especially in this game that we saw on Sunday, you could see the offensive line really struggled to get any push downfield run blocking. I felt like everything about the run blocking was, let's just say, not pretty, for lack of a better term. You're a little frustrated because you're thinking, well, you use a first-round pick on Mark Ingram, but he's only touching the ball. Even with receptions, I think he only touched the ball 13 times in the game. But, on the other hand, can you blame the Saints when they're not running the ball effectively at all?
Good point. Because we had not seen the balance that we need to see on offense. And I can't really say it's all Coach Payton because of the play calls. But, Professor, when you look at how Sean Payton was calling now there's a striking difference between that first game and the second game of the season. You could tell Sean Payton had more of a blueprint and his finger on this game against the Giants. Do you think we will have any success or any any continuity in our offense if we don't get these running backs more involved? We have 6 guys who can play running back, but it seems like we have nobody really getting involved playing running back.
Well, when you have a coach that is going to do it his way, and regardless of everybody else can take the highway, it's not going to change. Tragically, fellas, this is not going to change with the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints, I'm going to drop some statistics here, and this is the bottom line. The bottom line, whether we like to hear it or not, in talking this, the New Orleans Saints are 14-28 in their last 42 games, and that includes their 2 preseasons. You are 14-28. You are 21-31 since the midway point of season 2013. That's the record. That includes the Philadelphia win and after the 2013 season. So you have 18. Whether we want to deal with it, whether we want to call it rebuilding, whether we want to call it transition, you are not winning. You are 4-10 in the Superdome in your last 14 games. On the road, the Saints' offense looks inept now. They do not score a lot of points on the road. Go back to last season against Washington, against Houston, even the 2 games they won, Atlanta, Tampa Bay. It looks like now that the Saints' offense cannot even play outdoors. I don't know what all of this stuff is, but the bottom line is Coach Sean Payton is not getting it done. And the games, yes, they're very close, and you watch the Saints games, wondering if you're going to need a whole bottle of Aleve, Advil, and a shot of bourbon, because they're going to all their games. But the last, truthfully, guys, since the San Francisco game, the Saints have only probably dominated in the last 5 years, maybe 3 games where they won convincingly. Last year, the only game they won convincingly was the Atlanta game and the Jacksonville game. All of the Saints games now are these nail-biters, which is also kind of the trend with at least 12 to 13 of the teams in the NFC, and you're seeing a transition with the NFL. You have a few teams that have all 3 areas of the game, the tangibles really well.
Can't hear you, Professor.
Maybe about 17, and the other 25 teams, you don't know what you're going to get, and the Saints fall into that category because the Saints right now are just in a situation where they can't win. And we know that they're a young team and all of that, but this was going on even before the team transition. It's like something has happened where this team cannot close the deals. The defense has played, honestly, 7 decent quarters. It really has. But I was just amazed at what in the world was the offense still, at Moisant Field and Kenner at the airport? They never showed up. They never showed up. I'm like, what in the world? And this goes back to coaching. When you cannot motivate all 3 areas of your units to show up week in and week out, that makes your team look schizophrenia.
Schizophrenic, huh? Coach, did you see anything in the tapes to show if the Giants did anything special to limit the Saints?
Well, the New York Giant defense this year isn't even close to what the Giant defense was last year. They spent a ton of money upgrading their defense, especially their defensive front. So I never for a second expected the Saints to move the ball anywhere like they did last year. The Giants once again made a concerted effort to shore up that side of the ball, especially the pass rush area. So I figured they would have difficulty and was pleased with they gave up 2 sacks, but the coverage had a whole lot to do with that, and the pass protection in 1 sack was directed completely in the wrong direction and left an unblocked rusher at Drew Brees. Going back to the running game, and I find it really interesting, Sean Payton is going, man, we only carried it 13 times. We got to run the ball more than that. And I'm going, well, dude, you're it. That's kind of like what you do, isn't it? The Saints not only just ran the ball 13 times. Let me throw these numbers at you. For the whole game, 13 times for 41 yards, 3.2 yard average. 10 of those rushes were in the first half.
Wow.
Only 3 in the second half. The New York Giants, we talk about abandoning the running game because it wasn't effective. Guess what? The Giants ran the ball 15 times in the first half, 32 times overall. So they had balance in their attempts from the first half to the second half in the running game. They had a 2-yard average, 2.0 yard average. And if you take out the kneel downs,
right,
the 3 times that Eli Manning just knelt and took a yard loss, you take those 3 out of it, that's 29 carries for 61 yards, 2.1. So my premise is the Saints abandoned the run not because it wasn't effective. They had to be able to take time off the clock and keep the ball away from the Giant offense to help their defense somewhat. 3.2 yard average is not great, but the Giants kept running the ball even though they had only a 2-yard average. 2.7 in the first half, 2.0 through the whole game. The Saints needed to do that to keep to run the ball more, not so much on first down. And when you look at the way that the plays were called, where they were called, in effect, they were running the ball early in the game on first down all the time. When the Saints are at their best, when Sean Payton is at his best as a play caller, they throw the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, right, regardless of the down and distance, get third down in a manageable situation. Here's the other statistic that shows that just the strategy of the play calling, to me, is completely out of what Sean Payton does best. They lose the game overall because of third down conversions, the differential in that, and the kicking game. And it's hard to overcome, once again, a 10-point swing in the kicking game when you don't make anything else happen in the kicking game. The Saints, when you look at this quickly, and I judge it different than the statistics, but in the statistics, the Saints were 3 for 13, only 23%. Wow. The Giants were 7 for 15, 47%. Now, I went back and counted all the third downs, and I don't get my stuff from Pro Football Focus, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I go back. I use that as a reference, yes, but I go back and do my own study. The Saints actually had 15 third downs.
15.
Because I count even when the Saints had a third down, took a delay of game penalty because they couldn't get the play in.
Right.
I count that as a third down play when the statistics don't. So the Saints were only 20%. The Giants were 7 for 16 for 44%.
You're not going to win.
But here's why the differential occurred. Not just them failing on third down. If I want to do a better job on third down, you know what I'm going to do? Do a better job on first down and second down.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to convert a higher percentage of third downs, have shorter third downs.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and charted each one. The Saints' 15 third down plays were an average of 8.6 yards. So they had, on the average, for 15 plays, third and 8.6. The Giants, in their 16 third down plays, had 5.3 yards. 3 1/3 yards shorter than the Saints have. What does that mean? That's a difference between 20% and 44%. So third down conversions, because of their failures on first and second down, leading to longer third downs than they needed to have. And the play calling is just contrary to what Sean Payton does when he is at his best. Throw the ball on third down, run the ball on second. Because if you run the ball on second down, let's say